Hi, welcome back. Good to see you. And this is now moving beyond our prior episode 6 and entering into this is episode number 7, exploring surfing infinite presence. Almost a daring thing to allege or suggest. So please, everyone, join in holding space for presence. I need all the help I can get to do what has not been done in this way before, to seek to access in a direct intimacy the infinite space of being, of presence, of the word, of love, of source, the source of all reality, the field of reality of being, in deep ontology, the science of being. And in episode 6, which builds on 1 through 5, which was the first series of my decades quest to tap the missing code of Logos, source. You don't have to use Logos or Om or Tao, Yahweh, Allah, whatever name for the infinite source is in a way more neutral and generic because it doesn't suggest a particular ethnic orientation or localized grammar or historical situation. Here, source of all, the source of all possibility. Omni space. Before we have all of the distinctions in cultures and narratives and disciplines and arts and sciences and human enterprises, all of that's going on in our space of culture. We've gone over that here, and we saw that the red marker is bringing out what's not been seen clearly, which is there's a mind operating process that makes all of our experience and life and emotions and feelings and disciplines and arts and insights and scriptures and worship, all of that possible. There is a mind operating process that needs to be called out. We could talk about the ego or the self and the object and content of experience, and information and narratives and scriptures as we interpret and understand the word of source. But what we suggested last time is that there's something deep going on in presence, and all of our great scriptures are urging humans to not stand within this derivative form of minding our business and being a human, but to cross an up script and flip the script from this is first to this is first, the infinite space, by whatever name we use. Source, the source, infinite source. What's first? This is first science, as we said last time in the many episodes before. First philosophy, a name that comes from Aristotle's work on seeking to get the grammar of being. The ontology, ontos is being in the Greek, ontos logos, or Vedic science, the space of Brahman, Vedanta, Advaita, non-dual, infinite space, the Buddha space of Shunyata, the space of Yahweh, the space of Allah, the space of Christ, Krishna, Muhammad, you name it. It's all tapping into, alleging to get into the source of being on the primary ground. And if you use a God name, if you use the word God here, it's still delimited and finitized. What's in this technology of informationized thinking about it, thinking about that is going to still end up being in content. And if you name the God here, it's downgrading, almost demoting infinite presence. Why is it infinite presence? Because it has infinite names. We'd call it infinite sign, infinite word, infinite time, infinite now, infinite space, infinite energy, infinite vibration, infinite mathematics, infinite logic, whatever you use. But why presence? Because when we're using our best level of technology of mind operating, processing the world in the code, in a matrix, in a grammar, in a logic, to make our worlds and our experience with vast diversity of possibilities. This is a very powerful technology that can generate boundless alternative scriptures and first narratives and disciplines and arts and sciences and lyrics and music and dance and all of the painting and architecture, all of the genius of humanity can still, is being held always. A great poet is able to tap into this. Why? Because it's already here. That's the whole point in this hologram of presence. So why presence? Because if you say it's a being, if you say substance, being, even monad, the word monad is being used. That's a word that comes from Leibniz. It's monadology, the logos of monads, which are what? Units of atoms of spirit entities and atoms. It was boundlessly diverse and multiple from. So when producers now and content producers speak, oh, you've got to get to the monad and speak of the monad. That's a unity. We don't want to split fragmentation. You could speak of the monad here, but it's not monadic. So whatever word we're using and whatever language we're speaking across the planet, the whole human family. And by the way, this hologram does not just apply to any one group of people or one lineage. It's not just the children of Abraham or the children of China or the children of Tao or the children of Om or the children of Allah or the children, even though Allah, the children within the lineage of Abraham, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, we know that. Children of Abraham. Even though in the Christian version, we now learn that there are thousands of different churches and interpretations of the right interpretations of the Gospels and of Christ's teaching. And many producers are now saying, wait a minute, what we've gotten so far in the ideologies of Jesus, in the life of Jesus, Jesus was not starting a religion, ideology, a doctrine. He was teaching us to find the Christ within, the kingdom of God. What queendom? We don't have to say the kingdom. We don't want to orient it or prejudice it even with that language. Why not the queendom of Sophia? Infinite feminine. The female Buddha, Kuan Yin. Magdalene, the female Christ. Teaching from Magdalene's teachings on Christ. So it's transgender. But why presence? Because presence suggests that you can't download it and objectify it and talk about it. You have to enter into and surf the infinite field. What is first is infinite. Why? Because if you seek to even conceptualize a boundary around it, it deconstructs itself because what's on the other side of it. So it deconstructs any alleged boundary around what is first. So what is first is infinite, it's transfinite. Here it's finite. We can name it and speak about it and delimit it. That's what finite means. Make it finite. But it's unlimited. It's transfinite. It's infinite. And what the experiment we started in number 6, the last one, which I know we're seeking allegedly to venture into new territories, is there a deeper way to get out of this form of coding of the mind, of mind operating technology? Great as it is, because you couldn't have this without that. You couldn't have the red matrix without being funded by the infinite. Why? Because it's the source of all. Where'd you get that? Well, infinite is going to be infinite of all possibilities. That's what it means to be infinite. And are we coded with that? Yes, everything is coded with it. Nothing can be outside of the infinite's source sphere, Om sphere, Logosphere, Sophia sphere, Allah sphere, Yahweh sphere, whatever name. Brahman sphere. Whatever name we have for the infinite. The sphere, the domain, the space. And space and domain, it's not like words here. The language that we have and all of the various words across all of our languages, technical languages, mathematical languages, and so forth, right, are being sourced by we have to see that. That's our experiment in number 7. How do you get all of this from that? If we focus and meditate deeply on what's first, God, Allah, Yahweh, Christ. Why do you bring in Christ here? Right, we talked about that last time. What is Christ? Christ is not the same as Jesus. Getting the Christ. What is the Christ? Christ is the deep structure of the field of presence. Why? Because we saw that nothing can be outside of the source. And therefore the code of infinite, the infinite code, whatever name we use, is going to be infinitely unum, one. Not one or united here. Unity here is divisive. Whose unity? Which ideology? Which culture? Which language? Whose unity? United States, United Nations. Whose unity? But unum is profound. Pluribus unum, e pluribus unum. Out of the many unum, there remain unum. Why? So we can begin to see, if we realize that this is a derivative form of minding and interpreting what is first. And it's been shown over 2,500 years of our greatest teachings is that this can't make it. This technology is not powerful enough to make the crossing into presence. Why presence? Presence is a good word because it almost suggests, well, presence suggests an intelligence. Yeah. Why did you do that? Why didn't you just say energy? Infinite energy. Not energy here. Infinite energy would be infinitely aware, infinitely intelligent. Why? Because everything about it is infinite, and anything you can derive from any word that can ever be brought into any language, any projected name for what is first here is going to be sourced from the infinite name resource. Whatever we have, space, time, cause, substance. Aristotle, for example, said, what are the building blocks of the laws of thought and ontology? What are the categories upon which you predicate? To think is to predicate. So S is or isn't P. And you have the logic. And what are the attributes that belong to the subject? If we're going to inquire into being, the grammar of being, well, we have to know the categories. What are they? Substance, quality, quantity, relation, activity, passivity, passive, active, causation. Right? These are the building blocks. Where did you get those attributes of substance? So if quantity is one of them, the word quantity would be quanta. It'll be the quantity of number. Where does number come from? Where does relation come from? A is related to B. A is greater than B, less than B. A is a sibling of B. Relations. How do you get relation? What's one of the structures? And if anyone who's gone through the evolution of European philosophy from Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, all the way through the centuries, from Descartes, Spinoza, Leibniz, all the way to Kant. Kant is trying to get what are the structures of experience that makes it not possible to have a world, phenomena, whatever appears. And he saw it's not outside of us, it's in the structure of the human consciousness and body. Our senses and our intellect have structures that are the conditions on which anything that appears will have to go through be processed through the sensibility and the conceptuality and intelligibility of the thinker. The thinker is shaping the world. And phenomena is what appears to us. This means phenomena, facts, things, events. Sun is shining. Whatever it is, the alleged fact, is going to be a true thought. If the sentence "sun is shining" is true, then the fact, all that's going on here. I'm just warming up because here's the point. I'm going to do something pretty dramatic, even more dramatic than in 6, but it's building up on our meditation in 6. Remember, please, friends, I'm aware, as I said at the opening of 6, I'm keenly aware, with great humility, that this is not something I am doing. Ashok, I'm doing. I'm seeking, all my whole career in life has been to try and step back, as Descartes stepped back, as the Bhagavad Gita stepped back, as Buddha says step back, as Socrates says leave the cave and come into all the stepping back operation into the space of coming into being. And discovering and exploring the grammar, the language of the source. And you can't talk about it. You have to be intimate in it, with it, and speak from it, which is all Zen. So I'm calling on all of the viewers to please hold space with me. Please hold this space. Try to hold me, please. Help me to explore with us a portal. Let's open the portal to presence. And to see where are we? If we're going to do our first philosophy here in this technology and say, it's Om is vibration, Where'd you get that from? You can't do that. In the beginning is infinite black hole, infinite field of quantum energy. If you were to say that's loaded with structures and concepts and ideas that are generated from the derivative code. And the point is, derivative code cannot go primary. Try as you may here to name what is first. What are the initial conditions of the Big Bang before space and time? Well, what do you mean before? Space and time are structures of nature in the world of experience. Before space and time, before causation, before any of the categories. What was up? What's up here? What's going on? So any cosmologist or first thinker in physics, in biology, in life, in Christianity, in Buddhism, in Hinduism, in any of the isms that people live within those space and inheriting a deep structure. Where are you? Where did you come into this picture? How did you show up here? And wherever you, if you're going to be a thinker here and you just start alleging to get to what is first, I'll tell you what is first, and you begin to theorize. Well, theorizing is a form of rational thought and conceptuality. How did you get that? Where did you come from? Don't just jump in and try to allege, what's first, infinite first, it's energy. Because energy here is not the same as energy, infinite energy. Once you enter, allegedly, into the grammar, the language, the narratology of what is first, into the infinite word, what does that mean? It's the source of all words. What does it mean? Names and forms. Forms we have here, and names. But no name and form can come up without the prototype built into the source itself. Why is it that everything here is infinite? Because that's the logic of the infinite. How did we get that? We're carrying it. Why? Because everyone's coded. Not just humans. A drop of water is coded. A grain of sand, a snowflake. Why? Because it's in sacred space of the Unum sphere. So, friends, please hold with me to see how can we focus here and begin to get a clear sense. Perhaps it's never before shown this way. How did you get all of this? All of these amazing disciplines and art forms, beautiful paintings and architecture and dancers and singers and composers and scientists and genius using mathematicians, logicians, philosophers, everyday human beings living in the world, lovers, all of that. That's all brilliant. Humans are brilliant. We're amazing. But we could be cut off by a stage of evolution of our technology of making our lives and our world and our feelings. If you're going to say heart math is going to get heart math, where did you get geometry from? Where did you get math from? Where did you get number, quantity? Where did you get quanta? Where did quantity come from, of any kinds? Any package, any unit. Where would you get any kind of unit, whether you call it a monad with Leibniz, or an atom, atomic unit? The word atom from the Greek means uncuttable unit. Atom. So any unit can be atomic. I am atomic. A alleged separate Lego ego person is allegedly separate being. I'm a being. And there are other beings all in the nature in the world, other people. I and other. I and not I. It's either or. Why? Because the logic of this space is profound. A is A. We're going to have names and identities of things. But how do you get identity without relation? How can you have a unit without Unum? How can you be there without Unum? So if we're alleging to do first philosophy and be first responders and to build on Jesus and build on Buddha and build on Krishna and build on Muhammad, build on Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, build on Descartes' quest for first philosophy in his meditations, of Aurobindo, of Shankara, of Lao Tzu, of Ubuntu, of African visions of wisdom, of feminists, Magdalene. All of that's going on. How? So I'm going to do something that's a bit scary. I have many different. I've done many of these before. Every time I do a new one, it's always new. But I don't want to go. I want to ask a question. I want to do a peekaboo and say, just look at this for a moment. This, wow, it feels so refreshing not to have any of the marks whatsoever, just the infinite source. This is presence. This is on the ground floor. And what can we begin to get from this? How dare we allege that everything that appears and all possibilities, all art forms and narratives and all the genius and all of that we have, a vast diversity of scriptures and religions and so on. Well, how could that come from that? I'd like to do that with you. Please help. Please hold space. When I say space, this is the ground floor. This is the source sphere. We're using one particular infinite presence. And presence suggests attention and consciousness, because presence is presence of mind. It's not the present, that you can't name it and objectify it, but presence suggests that we're in it. And to be a conscious being already to be situated within it. And you can't be without it. So any alleged frontier scientist or philosopher, first philosopher or yogi or New Age prophet or teacher or self-help, whatever you are alleging to help people cross into this space, because we're already there. The space of presence, infinite space, surrounds us, in every cell, outside of us, in nature, in the stars, in the oceans, in the waves, everywhere. Infinite presence. So we're beginning to get a sense that the infinite is a profound missing logic that's been resonating with us. It's holding us so we can tap it in different ways. In a great song or a great dance motion I just did, or a brilliant idea of a breakthrough to find internet digital code, or any aviation, or any great pharmaceutical breakthrough or research, or whatever it is. Everyone is living under the jurisdiction. I use that word very carefully. Jurisdiction, under the law of infinite presence. Why did you say law? Well, because the infinite is the source of all. There's the word source, which means what? Nothing can be without it. So wherever you are, and wherever you begin to do your research, you say, there is no meaning in life. There is no fundamental truth. You're already using language. You're already tapping the zone. You're being already using the resource of the infinite word, language, science, sinology, any symbology. Any symbol is going to be coming out of the deep structure. So what? This seems so empty. Buddha calls this emptiness, shunyata, in the Sanskrit, zeroness, because it's not been objectified. You don't have a number, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's already, to have number and quantity is already a derivative enterprise. So you can't say, it's sacred geometry. How did you get geometry? How do you get secular geometry or sacred geometry? That's a big leap to jump to say, sacred geometry is the structure of presence. Or it's vibration and frequency. How did you get that? How did you get ratios? Frequencies. If you say Om is frequency and it vibrates, and that's the secret of the infinite field. Well, please help us understand, how did you get frequency? A number in mathematics. Where did you get that from? You may be right. You may be right. But what we're trying to do now is source science. We're trying to build and stand on the shoulders of our great geniuses, men and women, as I said before, to see how they've led us right into this threshold of the space. But if we try to deliver that to the people in the derivative code, or you try using a derivative code to get there, you hit a barrier. Either way, you can't use a derivative code to get to what's primary. And you can't download the primary into the derivative to get it. So the barrier is profound. So how do we flip from the derivative red zone into this space, which is a space of life? How do you get life? A space of love. The law-like structure of ethics. How do you get the moral law from this? Please. I'd like to, episode number 7, seek to do this with all your help. Everyone holding, please, hold the space with me. Because we are all, this is us, we're of the space. And if this is the ground floor of our home, if this is our home where we've been alienated, sorry to bring this back again. So this hologram, when you take all of this out, you see that's the space of presence. But now where we are in our human condition, and this is for all humans, and not just, we don't be anthropocentric. It's not that, well, what is the Christ? The Christ is the principle that out of the infinite unum, everything is sourced and thus coded with the infinite code. And therefore, to become aware of that is the Christ link between wherever you are and the source. So Christ is built into the deep structure of presence, the grammar of presence. It is that whatever appears is sourced. And if you're for humans who are gifted with rational intelligence and consciousness and awareness, which means being called, we're being called by the source, and so it's holding us. And we humans are being called, and we could turn our backs on it inadvertently, consciously, and say, that's bunk, forget that, there is nothing higher. You could do that, but you can't. To say that is to use it. If you say there is no source, there is no logos, there is nothing higher, there is no infinite, you're using it. And if you're duped and not to be able to see that, at least if you have the integrity to say, I know that if I'm going to say anything, any word, I'm going to be tapping the word fountain, the fountain of words. Be honest, right? See, there is no word, there is no first, it's all negative, there is no meaning. You can be a nihilist, you can be even evil, but you couldn't be evil without tapping into the resources of the infinite. It doesn't mean the infinite is doing evil or is ignorant. What we do with our wills in our lives, as we make our lives with our minds, and we're responsible for how we conduct our mind. How we use our mind, the matrix and the mind operating process we use, and we better wise up and pay attention to that, which is the call of all of our great scriptures and wisdom, enlightenment teaching. Mind your minding. Don't just mind or watch how the ego works in psychology here. But in ontology, step back, dare to step. Why? Because we have the capacity. This is built into us. The source code is built into us. Our higher self is with us. That's repeated over and over. The Christ self is within us. And those who now say that's what the Magdalene text and Thomas are saying, the real teachings of Jesus is not to bring a religion of Christianity, but to help people realize the deep structure of being, that being is with us. If this is the kingdom of the kingdom of God or Sophia, it's within us. And therefore to activate that is to cross into the presence. From a derivative, Lego, separate entity, a version of myself, for example, into a connected. So what we are seeking to do in this 7th episode, hopefully with your help, please, hold in space, we haven't done that sufficiently yet. We need to see the difference between this technology, and this all came out in 1 through 5 and in number 6. This red marker is marking out a mental space where we make our lives, within which we live. We're in a matrix here. We're in a matrix. And our will is calling the shots. My will. And when it's my will be done, no, source be done. When the source will, so that infamous remark, not my will be done, thy will be done. Source. What's the will? The law. Why is the law? Okay, let's do this, please. That's enough warm-up, okay? Just say the magnitude of what we're seeking to do is how do we go from source, infinite unum, to get the foundation of the possibility of having the human condition such as we know. I'm going to go back to that scary, open place of Shunyata. This makes it very vivid. Because most of us would say, what Gangadhi, what are you talking about? Ashok? You're kidding, right? There's nothing there. Well, the infinite's here. What's that? The plenum. What do you mean? The source of all possibilities. Nothing could ever be without the source, and therefore we're always surrounded and held. Oh, I'm beginning to feel protected. You are. We're being held by the infinite at all times. And when you become aware of that, that's a Christ. That's the Buddha. That's a yogi. That's the Om. That's Rumi. There's a field beyond judgment of right and wrong and pieces and fragmentation and polar and violence and objectification, genocide and all of the criminal behavior and good and bad, beyond good and evil. In this space, into the space of the field of presence, of where love flows, where ethics flows. Why ethics? Because it's profound law. The infinite, the grammar of the infinite means it's infinitely one. Let's follow me, please. And if it's unum, it's not just like unity, but infinite unity. What about that? It means as a source, it's a source, and that means infinite diversity is in the source, the infinite, the deep structure. I don't use that word structure in this sense, but the logic of the infinite requires that's infinitely one. Why? Because if you had many of these, then each would limit the other. So the logic implies infinite unity. And what does that mean? The infinite diversity of the possibilities of the universes and galaxies and cultures and worlds and life worlds and religions and forms of life and language games, all is encoded within the source of all. Why, if it's infinite unum, what does that mean? Let's get some more. It can't be divided. Infinite unity, that means what? Unum is unum pluribus. Already it's growing. Infinite unum, and we can't have more than one. And it's not just ordinary one, it's infinite Advaita, infinite one. Shunyata is infinitely one, which means what? As such, the diversity of possibilities, which is the source, is held together in a profound mutual entanglement. Excuse me. Physics is talking about particles in nature, entanglement across light years are instantaneously connected. Right? Those are just little slivers of insights into the science of source. We're doing science first, philosophy, science, ontology, deep ontology. Here. So if unum is infinite unum pluribus, and that's the structure of the universe, it means that all diversity is held together in infinite unity, and therefore what? It's a continuum. Not a continuum in any sense, oh, it's all connected, we're all connected. No, not in this sense. In a deep ontological sense of interconnectivity, there is no mother and son, or father and son, or I and you. Or there is no unit without the field. There's no field without the unit. There's no unum without the pluribus, there's no pluribus without the unum. That's the fundamental structure. And if that's the unum, then it's a continuum, then you can't have separate building blocks in units. That's derivative. Because you can't split the infinite. You can't fragment Om, you can't fragment God, you can't fragment Christ. Infinite unity is infinite unum, infinite pluribus, which means interconnectivity, which means there are no separate units that you then connect. Is that to be whatever you are is to be interconnected. So relationality is already embedded within unum. And without unum, you can't have our units. You can't have a unit. Oh, I'm a unit. I'm me. I got my own identity. You can't have any identity. You can't have any form, you can't have United States or United Nations or any kind of unity without Unum. And without relation, that means everything is now we're getting more coming out of this. Relationality. That's on the ground floor of Unum. Unum is relational. And not relation in this sense. Pieces of relation, A is the father of B or something like that. Here A is greater than B, or A, R, B is a relation. It's not a single bracket relation. No, relationality is the interwoven fractal. Now we got fractal. To sustain Unum Pluribus, it must be a continuum. Which means what? Everything is interwoven. Which means what? There's a moral law. Why? Because if we are in deep dialogue, interconnectivity of I and thou with each other and with nature and with ourselves, then to harm you is to harm yourself. And to slice and harm Unum is to harm the source. It would be a criminal act to deface the Unum and turn your back on source is a kind of defacement of it. And you can call that sin. Sin is not just bad behavior. Sin is a malpractice a mental malpractice of cutting and privileging a derivative over the primary. To say that Jesus, that narrative of Jesus died for our sins, which is a highly problematic thing, and people are calling that out. No one can substitute your punishment and pay a price for you. There's something wrong with that idea. But in any case, to say go and sin no more. If sin is the deep structure of a culture, then everyone, for you without sin, cast the first stone. Take the beam out of it before you judge the other. But take the beam out of it. What's the beam? It's a red mark. It's a code that cuts us off. Whether it's samsara, there's a generic name in source science for being cut off. You don't have to just use a biblical sin. Samsara, what is being cut off from reality, from being, from flow, from Buddha. So does that mean Buddha and Om and Avatar, Krishna, and Jesus, or any of the Magdalene are interwoven and interconnected? Obviously, yes. Does that mean they're the same? No, that same and difference is a lower logic. So if Jesus is breaking into this language of logos in the flesh, what's the flesh? The words, the word flesh, the speech. The speech acts of Jesus are the flesh of logos speaking, the logos language. I am the way, the truth, and the life. It doesn't mean truth is a sentence that's true and a fact in that sense of true or derivative. Primary truth is surfing. Primary knowing is intimacy with the source. It's communion. It's a deep form of knowing. It's not having information. It's not informationalized knowledge or epistemology. Deep epistemology is intimacy with source. It's communion. Zen. What happens then? You're actualizing reality by participating in it. The so-called observer effect goes to a higher power in terms of the performance here of the active consciousness. If reality is infinite presence, when we develop presence of mind, we're beginning to surf the field of presence of reality. Not think about it, not being aware of it, but intimacy. And that's really what 6, 7, 8, and 9, the series is. Explorations of presence, infinite presence. It means, can we tap the logos of presence? What's the grammar? Is there a missing language? If the beginning is a word, what's that language? Is it Hebrew? Is it Sanskrit? Is it Chinese? Is it Swahili? Is it Arabic? What language is it? French, German? All languages come from the infinite word. All signs come from the infinite signs. All forms come from the infinite form. The form of all forms. And Plato was hinting at that in the Republic when he said that as high as we can go into the vision of wisdom, there is, just as the sun illuminates the physical world, Logos illuminates the world of reason, the world of the mind. And great as knowledge is, and truth and knowledge, there's something even higher and beyond truth and knowledge, and that is the form of all forms. The math comes from here. The vibrations come from here. Quantum comes from here. Whatever narrative we're using for the first, and we're using words, we must pause everyone, I'm saying. Every human being, anyone listening to this exploration and meditation with me, everyone is called upon to say how what I'm starting to theorize about reality and saying it's a quantum energy field, or it's sacred geometry, or it's heart math, or it's a direct intuition, or I have direct access to it in my intuitive power, or I can divine it, or channel it. Pause, please. Please pause and ask, where are you? How did you get there? When Descartes said, I'm stepping back from the red zone, he didn't say that exactly. When he says, my culture, my mind, I can doubt it all. I press it out. Is there anything certain? I'm stepping back, he said. That's huge. Detachment from the lower is a prelude to having access to possibility of going into a primary space of primary being. So when Descartes said, I am, he wasn't an entity, a thing, a psyche, an ego entity. No, he left that technology. I am. When you're amming, you're surfing. And he was terrified because he had no more. Does he have a body? Is he out of body? Single bracket body? Is he a single bracket mind? Nature is gone. Space, time, all of these things are suspended. What is that dot of I am that has no marks and has none of the derivative signatures and signs and categories and names and forms? Nama Rupa. Name and form. Where do they come from? They come from the infinite form. Why? Because nothing can be without being. We're haunted by that. So if you say space is one of the building blocks, well, where did you get space? Single bracket space? No, space. Spacious, infinite. Why? Because the logic of the infinite means it has infinite signature. Everything is infinite about it. You can't impose a finite upon the infinite. And anything that can appear in the universe or in human experience or beyond human experience, if we're on a mental trip, a psychotropic trip, or of whatever kind, and whether LSD or mushrooms or whatever it could be, and you're out of the normal forms of mental states and altered states, even then that's all within the infinite space. If aliens were to arrive on Earth and we ask, well, is there intelligence? Like, you can't be an alien without source. And they'll be coded too, because nothing can be without being. And everything is coded, not just humans. So if unum is unum pluribus, and unum pluribus is a law of reality, that everything is interwoven and beyond entanglement sounds awkward and clumsy. Entanglement sounds like you're getting tripped up and entangled, like in a net, captured in a net. No, it's not like that. It's beautiful. Let's flow. If I'm entangled with you, if I'm entangled with my lover, we're not wrapped in a codependency. We are honoring the sacred space of the otherness of each other. There's alterity in pluribus. There is poly. There's pluribus. It's not just one versus many. It's the one in the many and the many in the one. And that's sacred logic. It's not just entanglement and we're tripping over each other. We can honor each other. There's ethics. If I violate you, I violate me. Why? Because of the structure of reality. So when geniuses are saying the universe, atoms and electrons are entangled across the nature, they're picking up on something important. When certain visionary says God is in everyone, they're picking up on something important. The kingdom of God is here. Yeah, that's true, if heard in the right way. The Christ is in everyone. Yes, it's true. Why? Because Christ is a relation between any person and the source. And that link and bridge which is built into the unum continuum, if reality is a continuum, then you're touching God. God is touching you. First of all, God is holding all of us and everything and all nature and every atom, every stone, every item is being held by the infinite. You don't have to privilege Homo sapiens, anthropomorphic. It's equal opportunity. Equal opportunity. Reality is equal opportunity. The code is coded everywhere. and being held. Everyone's being held. So you can go negative and be however self-harm is going on, whatever you're going, and there's nihilism and darkness and the dark night of the soul, or whatever you want to call it, into the abyss of meaninglessness. This is pure meaning. Why? Because as Plato understood and yogis understand and Buddha understood, that's enlightenment. Enlightenment is tapping into the field of presence. It's infinite light. Not just light here. What's the speed of light? No, what's the speed of reality? What's the speed of source? Infinite speed. Beyond the speed of light. So we can begin to say that any name that we might come up with, any language we may speak, a computer language, we may not have had that before, but now we're having computer science and computer and digital land. AI is coming, and supercomputers are coming. Oh my God, is it going to take over the whole field? Can it? Can a computer, using certain logic, cyber logic, right, and developing a mechanism in the machine, the calculus, that's based on atomic logics and binary, can it take over the field? Well, think about it. It'll answer itself. Can a computer become source infinite? Can something here become that? No, it's a category mistake. It's a big mistake. No finite can ever become infinite. And just in terms of something like I and the Father are one. I and the Mother are one. I and Christ are one. Whatever you want to say. I and God are one. It doesn't mean I equal God. Don't use this lower logic of identity and difference and sameness and difference. And if you say I am one with the, then we're the same. Same and difference is a derivative. To be I am one with source is a good grammar of the infinite. Everyone is one. Unum. It doesn't mean you are unum. It doesn't mean you're infinite. Why? Because the fractal field, fractal now, it's not just fractal as you might use it in the derivative speculation. Here, and even talk about the golden ratio and the Fibonacci and Mandelbrot as it's running through nature and the structure keeps repeating and the sacred geometry. And great, do that. Talk about sacred geometry and the ratios, the golden ratios, and the reiterating golden ratio that keeps, that's what's going on in nature. You couldn't have that without this. That's a golden ratio. The golden ratio is here. The Fibonacci. Deep mathematics comes out of here. All of math. Pythagoras, seeing that number is the secret of the universe. Number. How'd you get number? Well, if we have number in mathematics, then it's going to be traceable right to here. So when Bertrand Russell and Whitehead were looking in Principia Mathematica, looking for the foundation of mathematics and logic in their brilliant work, Principia Mathematica, right? The mathematics doesn't come from logic. Logic comes from source. Mathematics comes from, it's related to logic because of the Unum principle, because disciplines are interdisciplinary connected. Biology and chemistry and physics, computer science, they're connected. But connection here of different units and different disciplines and fields, to say that the Gospels are connected with the Gita, is connected with the Buddha, that kind of connection in the silo space is not the same as profound interconnectivity in the Unum space. So Unum logic is profound. There is the law of the universe. Unum pluribus. And imagine that if we understood that inscribed in the paradigm of USA, e pluribus unum, to get the demos, democracy, self-governance, free people, right? Beyond the red zone. It means that our different gifted geniuses, allegedly the founders of the 77, we're tapping in. They're being tapped by the source. You can't barge in, but you can be inspired. And great artists and creativity and musicians, Bach, Chopin, just to pick out some random names, the ragas of the music of India, all music across the planet, global music, rhythms, dance, out of Africa, out of South America, out of indigenous Sundance, all of this is being sourced. So when you say, it's sacred geometry, and they say that's a structure, you do some homework, right? How do you get geometry at all? different dimensions of space. Where'd you get space from for dimension out of space and Euclidean geometry and non-Euclidean geometry? How can that be? How could you have non-Euclidean spaces? And how can you have the bending of space in the space-time continuum and the kind of Einstein's imagination? And now speaking of the black hole, out of the black hole, we're living in a black hole and it's going to come out. There's a sacred geometry, right? Please, whatever narrative as a poet and a writer that you wish you're comfortable with, please understand you're tapping into the source and the logic of the Unum. And everyone is living under the jurisdiction of Unum. No one is outside of that or above it. And that is a deep structure of meaning. Why? There's no meaning without sense. You couldn't say sun is shining or I'm a man. You're making a relation. You're using a relation to put items of thoughts together in that case. Or even putting propositions together. If clouds are present, rain's going to fall. You're putting, whatever units you're connecting, you're putting relations. Where do you get relations from? From Unum. And where does quantity come from? Number. From the pluribus structure of the one and the many. Deep mathematics comes out of the Unum. So in a way, a mystic like Pythagoras in the school is trying to say that everything has a number. And there's frequency and vibration. Or if you're a yogi and you're saying it's the yoga of sound, and sound is the whole universe is sound. It doesn't mean sound, that we mean here as the sound waves. If the ground floor, if Unum is vibrational, and frequency and ratio and measure, that's the light of reason. By the way, the place of pure reason, this is pure reason. And reason is not reason versus reason here and emotions and experience and left brain and right brain and separation, all of these things. Yeah, do that if you want to. But single bracket reason is not deep reason. Well, Unum connectivity, why? Because that's where the lights go on. If there were no Unum, what would we have? Pluribus without Unum, which is what? Silos. And Lego pieces, and scattered pieces, fragments, scriptures in silos. There are the Gospels over there, and there's a Mosaic persuasion Torah, and there's Muhammad, and there's a Gita, and there is Buddha, and there's on and on, in silos. So what we're doing in this experiment together, please, I hope you're meditating with me and holding me, please. I need you. Is to begin to see there's a profound science, original science, source science of the grammar of infinite presence that cannot be objectified, it cannot be broken, it cannot be fragmented, it cannot be siloed, it cannot be, and it's a flow of love. It's the music of the spheres. Being, reality is a musical flow. It's not a process like something becoming. It doesn't become like that. A becomes B, the acorn becomes the oak. No, it's flow, infinite flow, and the infinite now, infinite space-time continuum. There's a continuum. If reality is a continuum, then game on. It means we're woven together. If I love Source, we'll love one another. Why? For the same principle. If we recognize the infinite as the source of our lives and our possibility to even think, and to theorize, and to have a theory, and to use language, and to have a narrative, and to have meaning and truth, and all of that's all coming from the source. So Jesus is tapping the Christ and speaking from the Christ, and I am the truth, I am the way. It doesn't mean I come and believe in me, because belief is an act of the mind, of a will. I believe the sun is shining. I believe that Christ is my Lord. I believe that yoga is liberating. I believe, right? I hope, I wish. All of these things, when you're using your will to affirm and deny, you're in that matrix. Believing in Jesus as Christ is not going to end the sin. Everyone has to take responsibility for Christing up or Buddha up. And if Buddha is seeing the shunyata as the place of dharma, which is what the law-like flow, and everyone is unique. He didn't say upon leaving the earth, follow me. He said, be a lamp, turn on your lights. Everyone, turn on your lights. Let go of the derivative and come into the primary. So I hope this meditation is helping us see. I hope I'm not pushing you away. I'm hoping to invite everyone to join in, because this is us. This is you. We're connected, and we're going to do this together. One or two people are beginning to get this. Is not going to help change a culture from a derivative space. So this is a matter of health, well-being and health, and ill-being, and implosion, and fragmentation, and continuing objectification, and subjectification, and relativism, and absolutism, and violence of all kinds, of Holocaust and genocides and wars, and self-harm, on and on, objectifying of nature, and speciesism, you name it, on and on and on, is from fragmentation. And what's the medicine? Oh no. What's that? A more perfect union. Union here is already divisive and divided. It doesn't have the resource of infinite unum. And to get to infinite unum, you've got to become intimate and serve it. And get humble. Let go of your ID. Let go of your privileged orientation, whatever it is, or multiple grammars you're living in. You may be a believing Christian or Jew. You may be also a research scientist in physics and seeing into the quantum reality. And you may be a citizen of some country, let's say America, and you're keeping your religion out of your politics and so forth, and you're seeing your therapist and trying to get it all together and trying to put it all together. But this is where you put it together, in the deep yoga, in the Christ. So this is radical. It means, I'm going to wrap this up. I don't want to hold you too long. We're setting the stage for number 8. We're going to try and go deeper and deeper with every session. Number 7 is attempting to slow everything down, change the page, from that messy look that we had before, to say, wait a minute, let's get on the ground floor. Is there anything lurking here? Right? And we're trying to say, wow, could it be that the fabric of being, of reality, being infinite, is infinitely connected? It's a continuum. If it's a continuum, I can't split it, I can't break it. That means if you have all of our different narratives and the histories of the 2,500 years of recorded history, and we've got the Chinese brilliance and wisdom over there, and African wisdom, and the European wisdom, and the Indian Hindu wisdom, Buddhist, China, Tibet, Japan, all these different countries, across the planet. We are now a planetary human family. Democracy is not just for the colonies of 1776 and the USA, which was a very compromised situation, as the history comes out about genocide to the indigenous people and so forth, and slavery, and the exclusion of women, and all that's going on. The demos is we the demos, we the people, are the whole human family. We're all under and woven together. Even the remotest zones of Eskimos, or any Aboriginal people, or whatever names we use for the far outreach of civilization, everyone is included in the demos. We're now in a demos global. Global means source. Global doesn't mean on the globe. It means deeper. It means all possible narratives, all possible humans across the planet are now in a political space. We're in a political space on Earth. Earth is our village. And we're a human family of sharing. Whether in no time, we're linked in with other species, protecting the environment, protecting species, protecting nature is sacred. Everything is sacred. What's the demos here? Demos, namely the Greek word for person. How do you go from a derivative person to a primary demos? That's democracy, demosocracy. What is self-governance? The land of the free. Free from what? From being mind shackled by technology of mind that cuts us off from each other and from ourselves and from our higher ways of life and from source. To become a free-range human, all of us. Talk about immigration. Everyone is in a diaspora. Humans are in a diaspora until we come home into the ground floor of being, and which is not physical geography. It's into the space of presence. That's when we meet in sacred space. So I think that's a lot we've just done. So please keep this. I don't want to give you an assignment. I'm a recovered professor. But I'd like to do some homework, not homework, but homework. Joyous work, because there's no greater news than hearing that wherever I've been struggling, could it be that there's a way to become a free-range, liberated person, a mensch, an Ubermensch, a real being, man and woman, whatever gender, beyond transgender, and the gender fluidity, the anima animus, yin and yang, Shiva Shakti, fluidity. It's joyous. This is joy. Why? Because the nirvana. This is nirvana. I just say nirvana is here. And wherever you are, here's something I'm suggesting to everyone listening to do this experiment. Where do you locate yourself in infinite presence? And if you're going to theorize about it, where are you? What are you bringing to the scene to be a frontier physicist exploring the quantum reality and sacred geometry? Where'd you get all of that from? Are you tapping the source? And if you're going to have a Big Bang narrative of the origin of the universe, you're alleging to do the physics for what's the initial conditions. Are you taking into account of a source in Unam, which is infinite, beginningless? And the source of any possible theory, of any narrative, would come from that. And if this is true, that means we have to everyone, all of us, each of us has to re-examine where we are in this hologram. Because if I consider myself a Christian, and there's a lot of critique now in public media about, is single bracket Christianity really the Christ? Is Jesus here really the Christ? Is Christ before Jesus? If Jesus weren't here, could there be a Christ? And that's apparently what's being taught, that Christ is on the ground floor. What's the interwovenness of every person with the source? We may be alienated and fragmented here from source, but if we can make that's a holy crossing. The holy crossing. The cross is symbolic, the holy crossing from this code is first, now to source is first. And whatever your identity, whether you're Jewish, Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu, Buddhist, scientist, atheist, deist, theist, dualist, skeptic, nihilist, whatever it is, right? Crossing into source is the place of emancipation. This is nirvana, this is heaven. Heaven is at hand. It's a brilliant axiom coming out of the Unam axiom. Think of Unam, infinite Unam, as the ultimate axiom of all axioms. Everything else is a theorem. Every narrative is going to be a derivative from the infinite axiom of Unam pluribus, which is a law-like structure of love and the moral law ethics and our human genome, where we become fully human. And that's a politics of presence. And the aesthetics and beauty of presence. Artistry and creativity is living in this space, sacred space, of moving mindfully with dance and song and poetry, music, all the gifted arts, and knowing, and deep science, all of that. Thank you. In our next episode 8, I'd like to build on this. I'd like any participant in this experiment exploring a space of presence, which is the space of being, infinite being, with all infinite, everything infinite. Is any word you use, like knowledge, infinite knowledge. How much knowledge? Infinite knowledge. How much space? Infinite space. How much time? Infinite time. Are those connected? Yes, they're unrelated. Why? It's a continuum, which means what? Everything is interwoven. Which means what? It's got a fractal logic. Not fractal in the way we think about it, but profound fractal. We're fractal sapiens, fractal sapiens. And every fact is a fractal fact. Here. We need to cultivate this for our human family, all of us. And so this speculation and wish and anticipation and prophecy and so forth, that we're in the midst of a great awakening, a mass awakening for our human family, right? It's true. It's been going on for centuries. That's our evolutionary journey to source. People say, well, what is creation? It's the universe, God knowing herself, himself in us. Self-knowledge. Well, we've got to become self-aware. So even though we're in a diaspora and we're far away, we have to return in the samsaric cycle to break the cycle and come back into the nirvana. Whatever. All of those languages. So what I'd like to do in number 8 is, even though when we look around now in social media and across the map of the internet, of looking at across the planet, of all of our great gifted men and women of the ages in different fields of arts and sciences and so forth, and no one excluded. She's the brilliant scientist to see against the deep structure of the quantum reality and entanglement and non-locality and the double-slit experiment and those and great breakthroughs in pharmaceutical or brain neuroscience and understanding the workings of neuroplasticity. All of these things, wherever you are, as an artist, as a dancer, as a human, as a mother, as a father, as a lover. I'd like to really remove all of those separations over 25 years. Please imagine, look back now, 2,500 years from here, at all our gifted humans, men and women through the ages, our prophets, our diviners, our scriptures, our heroic humans in all aspects. It's not just that Buddha is over here and Krishna is over here and Lao Tzu is over here and Jesus is over here and Moses is over here and so on and on. And Descartes is over here and Leibniz is over here and Spinoza is over here and Lao Tzu. No, remove the structures. Let's hold it all because it's all coming out of the Onam. This doesn't mean they're the same. No, there's profound diversity. Don't mess with that. There's profound diversity across all our geniuses and different forms of language using and modalities. So right brain oriented, gifted thinkers who are intuitive and maybe not as much analytical, and analytical geniuses and so forth, and the ones who have both gifts, left brain, right brain, all of them, wherever you are. I'd like to ask a question, some homework for episode 8. I'll do this myself. I've been doing this for years. Which of our gifted men and women through the ages, say over the last 2,500 years, contributed in your judgment most to opening up the space of presence? If you had to make a list, is a great musical genius, a Bach, let's say, just to pick an arbitrary one. There are many brilliant musicians, composers. Beethoven, do they make it? Does a painter make it? Does an architect make it into this? Which scientist, if any, has contributed to the crossing into the space of presence? Did Jesus make it? That sounds like a blasphemous thing to even say that. Did Jesus make it into the list of the greatest geniuses and gifted humans in the last 2,500 years? Does Moses make it? Does Buddha make it? Krishna? Muhammad? I know I'm risking by even asking that question, right? But I'm asking, did Descartes make it? Did Locke? Any of the philosophers? Jacques Derrida? Aurobindo? Nishida? Master Doan? Nagarjuna? I'd like to do that with you. Please bring this. Whom do you think across the spectrum of human men and women? Magdalene, did she make it? And our beautiful mystical women who really saw into the unity. Do mystics make it? All of the great mystics are tapping into. Did they help us get to presence? Who helped us to really get the code issue? To see there's a derivative matrix and there's a primary form of thinking, and we need to make the crossing. That's what it's not an assignment, it's an invitation to shape your assessment of who amongst our great gifted men and women over the centuries, in all fields and disciplines, in all walks and talks of life, in your mind, made decisive steps to help humanity enter into the space of presence. I'll try to do that more in episode number 8. Thank you very much for holding me and going with me. I hope you're holding me and holding with me. And that doesn't mean agreeing, it means witnessing, holding the space. As we explore in this deepest meditation of exploring the space of presence and the foundation of all our cultures and our human being and all our scriptures and all our disciplines and all aspects of walks and talks of life, the founding of our institutions, political forms of life, self-governance, all of it, right? All our institutions and enterprises, human enterprises, we're trying to get the founding in presence because that's the source. So please join me next time for episode number 8. We go 8, 9, 10. I have 3 more sessions to try and give more depth to this with you and invite you to please hold me. And so I hope to see you next time. Thank you so much. Be well.